Hey, on this episode of Amazing Race, no, just kidding. We're going to talk about Adventures by Disney itineraries when we come back. See you in a second. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Universe of Magic podcast. I'm Jeff Armbruster, and I am joined at the table virtually by the lovely Alyssa. Hey, say hello, Alyssa. Hey, there she is.
Hello.
And we are also joined by the lovely Jen Winter. Hey, Jen.
Hello.
How's it going?
Good. How are you all doing today?
Doing good. I cannot wait to talk about today's topic because it's probably one of my favorite in the world. Obviously at at Moments of Magic Travel and the Universe of Magic here, we help plan your trips from Disney World to Disneyland to Alani to Disneyland Paris to the Disney Cruise Line. But my favorite, I guess, you guys remember from a couple weeks ago, my favorite Infinity Stone is Adventures by Disney. It's my favorite brand. I think for a lot of us, it's kind of the unicorn that we don't book very often because there's such specialized vacations. But we're going to dive into that a little bit today. We're going to do it kind of Amazing Race style. But before we do that, let's give a plug to our wonderful sponsor, Moments of Magic Travel. For your free, no obligation quote, please go to momentsofmagictravel.com or contact one of us. And we are willing to help you guys plan your trip. And we are free. We don't cost anything at all. We're paid by Disney and the providers that we help you guys with. So there's no reason not to. But let's talk about today, Adventures by Disney. I know you guys, we've been talking about doing this one for a couple of weeks. I've had the pleasure of doing several of them over the last decade. Now that my son is graduating here in a couple months, I might be able to pick up traveling again, overseas. We've been kind of on a hiatus since I had two of them going to Michigan State a couple years at the same damn time. But now that he's graduating in May, Dana and I, my wife, have already talked about picking back up. I know my next one that we're doing is going to be Norway. I've been looking forward to that one for a while, not just because, this is probably going to have some frozen, tendencies or, idiosyncrasies to it, but just because I've really always wanted to see Norway. So that one we're planning to do. But I think today we're going to kind of explore our favorite itineraries that either we've explored or want to do. Let's just maybe go around and just talk about, what those are really quick, and then we can kind of get into each one of them. Let's start with you, Alyssa. What is your itinerary that you cannot wait to do at some point and looking forward to it?
Well, of course, I had to pick the most expensive one out of any of them. But you know what? This is a trip that I've always wanted to do at some point, and I feel like doing it through Adventures by Disney would be the perfect way to. So even though it's the most expensive, I chose South Africa because there's literally, I was looking through the itinerary, and we're going to go through each of our itineraries, but the amount of times they take you out on a real safari, like it's not just once and then you're done. Like you go, I think like 5 times total.
Wow.
And like, as well as so many other things. So that's been my dream trip since I was like a teenager. And so even though it's expensive, I think I would save up for it one day and make it happen because look at the itinerary, it's amazing.
And I'm going to explain, why that those extra few dollars are worth it in the end. There obviously is, you do any amount of research, there's always a cheaper way to do anything, but sometimes the cheaper way isn't the best way. And with Adventures by Disney, they really prove that. And we'll talk about that. So, but before we get there, we got to hear where Jen is looking forward to. And I actually know, and this is one of them that I want to do too. Dana wants to do this one, Jen. So it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, I'm really excited to kind of have taken a peek at this one, but my bucket list trip is Iceland. And just going through this itinerary, seeing all the hot springs and the glaciers and just, oh my gosh, there's so many really cool, unique stops within the itinerary, and it's bus, plane, there's lots of jaunts that you need to take that are different. I mean, it's a pretty epic 9-day trip, seeing as much of Iceland as you can. So it's pretty cool.
It's amazing race. It really
Yeah.
is.
Yeah, it is.
It's so fitting that we kind of, cross-reference that show. It's one of my favorite shows to watch, actually. But it's really fitting when you think of Adventures by Disney. And the place that I'm going to talk about is actually a place that I got to do back in 2018. In my choice, and what we did was Adventures by Disney China. China was absolutely amazing. Full disclosure, I'm not sure that in this political climate, I'd want to go there right now, but maybe in years again, hopefully things settle down and, that is open to everybody. It's actually already selling again right now. I did call in just the other day because I was curious. I did call in just to see, how full those trips are to China right now. And they have several of them sold out already. So, there's room on a majority of them, but it's absolutely beautiful. It's almost 2 weeks. There is so many things that you see within the Chinese landscape, including the Disney parks, which is one of the reasons why I loved it so much, from Shanghai to Hong Kong Disney. You get to go see pandas. There's a terracotta warrior part of it. The Guian boat trip. If you guys have been to Epcot and went to the China Pavilion and seen the Reflections of China movie, I don't know if you guys have done that before, but that movie is one of the reasons why I really wanted to do this trip. Many, many years ago, when I saw that for the first time, I had that on my bucket list. And that movie portrays accurately a lot of the places that you go. So if you guys are at Epcot, or not planning to go to Epcot, but thinking about Adventures by Disney trip, go on YouTube, type in Reflections of China, watch that video, and you're going to see a lot of the places that they go. Jen, you hit it on the head when you said about, from a bus to a plane. That's really how it was for us in the China trip. I can remember one particular day leaving out of Beijing, going to where the panda exhibit was and the terracotta warriors, getting on a plane, and then ending up in another part of the country all in the same day. Like, I was physically exhausted by the end of that day, but it was unreal the way that they treat you. So, I thought what we could do is just kind of talk before we get into these itineraries, maybe just about what Adventures by Disney is, what to expect, when you do one of these trips. We could talk a little bit about the price tags in general. The Adventures by Disney brand is their get to see the world part of their company. It's not Disney in your face. Mickey's not on these trips with you unless you go to one of the parks. You'll definitely get to see him. Even right down to the tour guides themselves. It's a very distinctly different logo. It's not, Mickey in your face. And that's one of the things that I think a lot of people appreciate about it, is that you still get the Disney flair to it, little Disney touches, but it's really meant to show you the culture, the landscapes, and get to see the people and the different ways that people live through Disney's eyes. There's a lot of Disney-fied points to it. For instance, we've done Germany, and you get to see some of the castles that inspired some of the Disney movies. The Beauty and the Beast castle was inspired by a castle that we actually got to stay at in Germany overnight.
Nice.
So they really give those touches to it, right down to on the plane and the bus rides from place to place, showing you Disney movies, for the kids and stuff that were really relevant to the countries you were in. So it's 2 guides, as I mentioned. One guide is always in country. So, they really not only speak English perfectly, but they're from the country, and they can help you assimilate and get you past sometimes a language barrier and the cultural barriers. And then the other guide is always from the United States to help you assimilate even more, where you feel like an instant connection, just because, you feel a little bit uneasy in countries. Sometimes you don't know, but when you have that American guide with you who does this week after week, there's an instant bond there. And these guides are there to take care of everything for you, right down to finding my son a China soccer jersey when we couldn't find one. They found one for him, they bought it for him, and they gave it to him, and it wasn't an additional part that he had to pay for. And this was like a Nike jersey. Little things like that. You know, I was a big meal drinker back in the day, you know, adding to your water. And that wasn't a big thing in China. They didn't know what that was, but they found me the equivalent and got me 2 bottles of that so I could spike my water a little bit. So they really take care of the small details. But the secret sauce behind what Adventures by Disney does and why it doesn't necessarily pay to sometimes find a cheaper way to do it is these attractions you're going to, the Eiffel Tower, the Louvre, the Sistine Chapel in Italy, the Great Wall. They're taking you either in places that are not very publicly, like the Great Wall, for instance. We went there and there was just 40 of us at a part of the wall in Beijing where not many people visit. So it wasn't like crowded at all. Sistine Chapel in Italy, we were there after hours, you know, when they were closed. And if you've ever watched videos on YouTube, that place is packed. And you're not supposed to take videos and pictures in there. But we were in there like 7, 8 o'clock at night. I laid on the floor and looked up at the ceiling for like an hour just taking pictures. So it's that type of access that makes it worth it. 75% of your meals are covered. You know, just every one of your breakfasts at the wonderful hotels you stay at. These are all 5-star hotels. If I could give them a 6-star ranking, I would. But they're like, you know, the Peninsula, and they're just, you know, the upper echelon of international hotels. But your meals are covered. It's all those additional things that will add up if you try to do these trips or piecemeal them yourself, or even with the lesser company, not as established as Disney. You know, you will end up paying a lot of that, including all your internal transportation from city to city. All those plane rides are included.
Yeah.
So not
Right,
plane ride to and from.
Right.
Yeah, not to and from country, but every piece of transportation internal to that trip is covered. So it's amazing. So I'll start with there. I thought what we could do, and Alyssa, if you're game with this, is maybe go through your itinerary a little bit, talk about what we're going to see there. And if there's questions within that itinerary, I can help fill in the gaps of how it works.
Yeah, no, so Jen and I agree that some of these names are a little hard to pronounce. So we're not really going to try, but so I have it. Oh, lovely. All right. So, I
nice.
have something on my phone that I'm kind of looking at, and all you have to do is go to the Adventures by Disney website to look at these itineraries. It is so detailed, and everything it covers, the prices you can expect, the itinerary options. So some things, like, you might have a choice on what to do. Some things, we'll get into it, but some things will say, if you don't want to do this, there will be a motor coach that'll take you back to your hotel. So it kind of lists everything. It also says like the suggested ages. So like some of these are family friendly, so you can bring kids on there, but like this says a minimum age of 6, but suggested age of 8+. And I can tell why, because as we go through the itinerary, some of the times when you're like on the safaris, on the game reserves, it says a note there that you have to be very still and quiet. So I could see how a kid younger than 8, definitely younger than 6, is going to have a hard time on that. So there's reasons behind why there's suggested ages on these. So at the top, you'll have all like the highlights, everything that's included. So like Jeff said, most meals, so 9 breakfasts, 8 lunches, 7 dinners, and that's for 10 days. So really you're only covering a couple. And it seemed to be, looking at the itinerary, it's the days that maybe you just have free time that you can go do what you want.
And that's one of the only reasons, Alyssa, why not every meal is covered, because they give you free time to explore and
I
try
love.
local food.
Yeah,
yeah,
for sure.
I don't want to be tied down to a schedule the entire time. So I enjoy having a tour guide, enjoy having certain things to go do with the group, but I also want to go do my own thing too. So I do really appreciate that. All right, so we're gonna get into it. So like Jeff said, your flight there is not included. However, the second really you step off of the plane, like you have someone from Adventures by Disney waiting to pick you up, handles your luggage, takes you to the hotel that you begin at. I just spoke to a family on the Danube, and they decided to add the pre-night stay, which I always, would recommend just in case of flight delays and stuff, just having a little more flexibility. But they said as long as you book like that hotel, they're going to take you there. And then they'll take you again from that hotel to the river cruise and everything. So, so this one starts in Cape Town. It does have a different end. So you would have to book different flights. Like, back to home. But it kind of goes through down here, if it's the same one I'm looking at on there. So we're just gonna go through days. Also, I looked, almost all of them are sold out. So even though this is the most expensive, it's obviously popular. So and there's at the moment only one family one available still. The rest are adult exclusive. So I'm curious. I'm curious. All the ones that are sold out, you can't see the prices on them, but we're looking at like the family one. An adult starts at $11,399, and then the kid is roughly $500 less than that. So like I said, the most expensive, but if I'm going to do South Africa, I'm going to do it right. So, all right. So hold on, I'm skipping down just so I can read on here because my eyesight sucks. So hold on a second.
And while she's looking that up, the price that she quoted is per person. You know, it's not necessarily much different than, you know, how it's priced out for. I'm going to use as an example. Disney Cruise Line is similar pricing per person, but obviously this is much more entailed. There's hotels, there's meals, so this is priced per person. So a family of four, you'd be looking at roughly $44,000 if there was no discounts. And there are some discounts out there. If you're DVC members and you're one of the first groups to, you know, book, there is a slight discount available for that. And even if you're not a DVC discount, they offer generally first available booking. Like if you're the first percentage, you can get a discount.
So my family that just booked the Danube, it was $500 per person off. So
nice.
And it was 4 people, so it was $2,000 that they saved.
That's
just by
beautiful.
Yeah.
That could be their airfare right there.
Literally. All right. So arriving in Cape Town, I love this. Again, flexibility with that first day. It gives you some recommendations of things you could go do, but again, it's kind of up to you what you do there after you check in. Everything too has links to the hotels that they did choose for you, which I also think is amazing because I like to have an idea of kind of where I'm staying. And once we get to the further days, you're going to see one that I really love. But like clicking on that one, I could see that John was trying to do that, but it shows you exactly where you're going to be staying, the kind of room accommodations. And when you go further down into these itineraries, it'll tell you the configurations depending on the size of your family. So it'll let you know, like, oh, you're going to have 1 king bed, or you're going to have like a separate room with this much and then a separate room with that. Like there were some, if you had a family of 4, you had to have 2 rooms in some of these places. So they just didn't have bigger rooms for that. So then going down into it, this is going to sound funny. I don't mind heights if I'm strapped into something, but like the Skyliner at Disney terrifies me. So there is a gondola ride up a mountain, which I think I would be terrified of. But then it goes into the details of seeing like the views from up there of South Africa. And I think that would be worth, oh, there's that cable car. Yeah.
There you go.
That's like I don't know, you're floating on a little string there that I feel like snap. That's what kind of goes through in my mind. But so I would be interested, if I did book this, I would do more research because it says like take a tour of District 6, which chronicles the injustice and racial intemperance stating from South Africa's, I don't know what this, apartheid. Thank you. I did not do well in history. But like I don't know much about that. I would want to research that ahead of time, and then that way when I'm on maybe the tour getting more information, I kind of have a basic knowledge of it. That's personally how I work. However, again, when you book through an agent like us, I can do that research for you. I can give you some idea of kind of what to expect if you want that. Some people just want to go and just kind of be surprised by what they're experiencing. So, but that's kind of how I would work.
And Alyssa, let me add something really quick, just because you know, you mentioned about being fearful about going up on the cable car and all that, and I want to use that as an example. There's individuals on these trips who sometimes will opt out of certain activities just because of, you know, physical restraints that they have or fears and everything. I'll give you an example. One of the trips, my in-laws who were with us, we were doing a pretty a pretty intense bike ride through Paris. And it wasn't that it was like super, you know, hilly and all that stuff, but it was the pace that we were at. Well, they elected to not do that. And Adventures by Disney gave them some passes to jump on the big bus and just see it on their own terms.
Cool.
So there are the options where if you feel something's too intensive, like maybe you're whitewater rafting or something like that, there's always an alternative activity that they will hook you up with, or alternative way to get somewhere. So just know that when you know, if you guys watching are looking to booking one of these trips, it's not all or nothing.
And I like that you mentioned that too, because I had the family that I just booked. It was like the grandmother's like bucket list trip. And she wanted to know, like, how is it with like walking on cobblestone streets? Is it a lot of hills, that kind of stuff? And I called Adventures by Disney, and they have like a rating system of how strenuous or like how active every adventure is. And they were able to give me the detailed information of like the typical walking isn't too much, but there is a bike ride. Right, but that they can also opt out of. It took them to a destination, and they have the option to take like a bus to that destination instead if they didn't want to ride the bike. So that can be something we definitely look into for you as well if you have any of those types of concerns.
And big shout out to the man behind the curtain, the Wizard of Oz himself. John is back there doing all this stuff. So big shout out to John back there.
Yes. All right. So again, getting into it, I wanted to mention, so again, with that, so there's an option here. I'm looking at city walking tour and optional shopping at V&A waterfront. There's a little see important details. If I click on that, then it's going to say, for guests who don't want to shop at the waterfront, a motor coach will be available to transfer you back to your hotel. So like, I love that. Again, it gives you all the extra details of it. Okay. So then continuing into Cape Town, this is all in Cape Town. I am a sucker for when it says lunch with a view. So I'm like, okay, this is my kind of thing. And with penguins, yes, please. So, this is my kind of trip. Again, this is a lunch that's included. You then go to the Boulders Beach to see the African penguins. You have dinner in Cape Town. And it says down here, breakfast, lunch, and dinner all included on that day. We're getting there. That's the lodge that I'm really excited about later on.
Pretty amazing.
Yeah. Then the following day, time on your own again, which I love it, up until lunchtime, which is in Wineland, wine country. Yes, please. I love that this trip is a mixture of relaxation and adventure too. I love that it's go on the waterfront shopping, go have some wine in a vineyard, Wineland. But then, okay, we're going to get into the crazier stuff. So then there is a map somewhere on here that shows you kind of like the cities where you're going to fly and everything. Because now we're going into...
I think that's right at the top of the itinerary.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I can't pronounce... I'm not even going to try to pronounce this city. But...
right there, John, right next to itinerary, there's a map.
Yeah, that little map. If you can down a little bit. Yep.
There you go.
Yeah, I'll show you. So this one includes 3 internal flights. That's a lot. So, I mean, that, again, I think probably shows you the price tag a little bit. So, but you depart for there, and then you get to a Monkeyland Primate Sanctuary, as well as Birds of Eden, like a privately guided tour of the sanctuary. So I love, too, that it's like not... like it's not a zoo, right? These are all like a sanctuary to protect certain wildlife, but then like you're literally going out onto like the savannah for like the other part of the safari. So like real life stuff. Again, more nature preserves, the waterfronts, dinner on your own time, yada yada. Then the flight. So that lodge he showed. Again, I'm a sucker for a really good lodge. This is literally my dream trip. I was looking at the prices of some of these hotels too, and like some of them were like $400 or $500 a night. So again, like kind of adding it all up at the end, I could probably do it cheaper, could probably find something else, but like between the flights, I don't have to lug my luggage around. The Adventures by Disney is going to do it for me, right? Or I don't really have to worry too much about like all these accommodations and make sure they have my reservation. Adventures by Disney is taking care of it. So, but this is the coolest part, because after you arrive, you have an evening game drive. So, and they, I guess, have from what it's telling me on here, it sounds like they have like those special goggles or whatever that will show you like night vision of like the animals and stuff, and they'll be able to like point them out to you. But then it's the next day, morning game drive, snakes and insects presentation, evening game drive. Like that's 3 times that you're going out there, because obviously they can't guarantee, right, what animals you're going to see, but they give you so many opportunities to hopefully see something. That night is also when it gives you the details of there's an adult dinner at the lodge, and then there's junior adventure bush pizzas. I don't know what a bush pizza is, but I guess you'd find out. And then a junior adventures Disney movie night in the snake pit. So like they kind of list that out, and it even says adults can join the kids or can enjoy a quiet evening to themselves. So I think that's really, really cool.
And that's a really important part, Alyssa, because they actually will take the kids away from you for a night. So you have some romance, you have some adult time on the family ones. We loved that. Our kids were relatively young for a couple of the trips. Them taking them away, having a fun Disney night with a movie, or even exploring some kids areas of the city we were in, that gives you and your spouse some private time. So that's actually like another key point that people don't really realize.
I think that's amazing. I really do. I don't know that I'll ever be able to afford to take my entire family on this trip, but if I could, that would be awesome. And then lastly, again, another morning game drive, archery lessons, an evening game drive, and then a farewell dinner, which based off of what you've kind of said in the past, Jeff, is kind of like at that point you become like family with all these people that you're doing this tour with. Some of them that you guys still talk to. So, and then lastly, on my last day here,
you don't realize it. No, I was just going to say, you don't really realize it, but you end up becoming family with a lot of these individuals. Give you an example. My daughter was in a wedding last weekend. She stood up in a wedding for someone that she met on one of these Adventures by Disney trips.
Wow,
you know,
cool.
so I mean, you don't realize the relationships you're going to build, you know, and a lot of people that she still talks to on a regular basis are from these trips. They do give you the ability at the end of that farewell dinner to not only experience a dinner in somewhere really historic. Wait till you guys hear where my dinner was on China when I get to that part. But you guys get to trade information right then and there. You know, you're trading cell phone numbers, text messages, and Disney helps facilitate that. So
that's cool.
Another thing that you don't get when you try to book these.
Very cool.
So
yeah. So my last thing, I thought this was interesting because I never noticed it before. On the last day, it like says, okay, another game drive in the morning, breakfast at the lodge, and then it gives you recommendations. It's going to tell you what airport, and this says your flight should not be scheduled earlier than 6 p.m. So like it again helps kind of with the planning purposes. They also, Adventures by Disney does have pre and post night stays at various hotels. So like if you didn't want to have to worry about rushing, like they can help add that to your package. And then again, they'll still offer transfers to the airport for you. So yeah, so that's the gist of South Africa. And now I want to go now.
Right. That's great. Very cool.
Yeah, it's an exhausting trip. It's definitely exhausting. It's probably going to be as tired, if not more, than one of our 7-day Disney World, trips that we plan for people. But it's an adventure trip. It really is an adventure trip. And I can't say enough about wanting to do another one very quickly. So we'll save up together, Alyssa. We'll go to these trips somewhere down the road.
Sounds
so.
good.
So
right,
Jen, let's get into Iceland, because Iceland is another bucket one. What'd you find out about Iceland?
Cool. So cool. So I want to, if you're going to pull up the site for Iceland, John, I just wanted to go over on your homepage. If you're looking at these trips, I just want to highlight that. There you go. So right on the left side of the screen, it says trip highlights, and you're going to get these little menu items. I want to show, yes. So like down into what's included and preparing for your adventure, they have even packing lists for you, because in Iceland, you're going to have, different temperatures, you're going to be doing different types of activities that are hot, that are cold. So it's going to go through and tell you exactly what you're going to need to take on this trip, which I think is really great. So click on that preparing for your adventure real quick there. And there you go. It's a what to pack list. And if you go down to show more, it gives you lots of information. And all of these trips will do that. So no matter where you're going, it's going to really give you a great description of what you need to take with you, what, important things to have, the difference in temperatures for wherever you're going, things like that. So anyway, and then on that first page, if you go back to the main page, it's going to give you trip highlights. Keep going up there, John. Keep going. Oh my goodness. Oh yeah. There. Whoops. Trip highlights. So there you go. There's some like major things that you're going to do and see while you're in Iceland. The Blue Lagoon is one of like the most famous and popular hot springs in Iceland. So that is a main really cool attraction that you're going to do right at the beginning of your trip. I think that if I remember correctly, the Blue Lagoon is right at the beginning. So as you go down, you're going to arrive in Reykjavik. And another thing about these itineraries to look at is as you're looking at this blue highlighted area, it's going to show you the little icons as for what you're going to be doing. So there's, you have a little airplane there that you're going to be arriving at Reykjavik, checking in at your hotel. Then there's a welcome reception, and then you get to go to the Blue Lagoon. So they're going to bus you over there to Blue Lagoon, and then you get dinners with the little fork and knife there. So each day is a little bit different. You're going to be seeing what types of activities you're going to be doing. There's little footprints on the walking activities and things like that. So day 2, you're going to be heading out for more of your Golden Circle tour type things. So you're going to be hiking at the national park. Yes.
Did you notice in that day 1 that they actually, and this is another Adventures by Disney stamp regular thing, you actually start your adventure almost from the moment you get off the plane and do things even before your welcome dinner. That is very common. A lot of these Adventures by Disney trips, they want to pack it all in. They don't want to waste any time. So be prepared that your welcome dinner is not the start of it. That may be the end of the first day.
Right. Exactly. You're going to be like going right then. So some cool things about this one, you get to go to like this little family farm, and you're going to have homemade ice cream at this family farm as you're going around. After you hike the national park, you're going to see one of the most famous waterfalls and geysers. You get to have lunch. This is another thing, a lunch at a family farm. Granted, they are an entity or a business there. They're not just welcoming into your home. However, that does occur on some of these trips where you will be welcomed into an actual home to have a dinner or a meal or a lunch or something like that. I think this is just, the views are ridiculously cool, right? Look at that. So, and I think on the second day, the kids have like a movie night, junior adventure movie night. So that's something that the kids can do if you have kids with you. And then you're going to start day 3, I believe. You're going to start, you're going to go off for another hike. You get to go to another waterfall, have lunch at a cafe, another hike on the Glacier. And then you get to enjoy Reykjavik before you fly out, because you're going to fly out that next day to head to the upper portion of Iceland and do some more activities. So that's pretty cool. So day 4, 5, and 6 are in North Iceland. You're going to be doing some cool stuff. You're going to be fishing. You're going to be able to have some lunch on your own and explore another cool Iceland town, culinary tasting, whale watching.
Ooh, that sounds fun.
Right? Just all kinds of cool. Another stop in North Iceland on day 5. another waterfall. And they have the star items on your itinerary too, are some of the like the major highlights of your trip, I think, are where the stars are located. So these turf houses is one of the main attractions that people go to see in Iceland. So that's pretty cool. Dinner on your own in another city, which is amazing. I'm sorry, I cannot pronounce a lot of these, the names to the lakes and the cities, but you're going to get to go to hike around the lake. You're going to see a bird museum. You're going to go see some lava fields, mud pots. So that's pretty cool. I'd love to go mud potting. So that's pretty cool. And then dinner. And then you're going to be the next day, you get to do some river rafting. And then you got a motor coach back to Reykjavik that day. And then you have your farewell dinner, because on day 8 is when you actually are going to be departing Reykjavik. And that's right after breakfast. So it's a really immersive, pretty lengthy tour of Iceland. You get to see just so many of the major spots, and it just, it looks amazing. But this one is a more foot travel type trip. There's going to be a lot of hiking, a lot of exploring, things like that. So keep in mind on some of these tours, when you're going through and looking, if you see a lot of the footprints, just know that that's maybe a higher level of what would you call it? Higher intensity, just more activity. Although I know there's probably a way for you to do something different, like everybody, like, Jeff has suggested, if you can't walk down. But so many of the places that they're going to take you are still going to be, what do I want to say, inclusive for most people to get to. They're not going to take you to somewhere that, people aren't going to be able to see. So you might not be able to get as close, or, you might have to stand back a little bit further, but I'm sure they will do their best to get you to see everything that is available on that trip. So.
And every itinerary obviously is going to have its level of intensity.
Difficulty.
You're going to expect, you're going to expect to do more on an Iceland, South Africa trip, just because of how nature-based they are and some of the things you're doing, than maybe per se a Germany trip or a France trip, where it's more city-based and more museum-based and more iconic site-based, and some of those itineraries are built in how many days they are. Like, for instance, the ones through Europe are generally 7 to 8 days. And the ones that you expect to see, like the ones that you two pick, where they're 12 days each, 10, 12 days each, can expect with the amount of days you're doing that there's going to be a certain level of strenuous activity in there. So just plan for that. But even with the strenuous ones, there's always opportunities to opt out, do something less. So don't let that be a deciding factor. Talk to us, your experts and your direct connection to the vacationistas, they're called, with Adventures by Disney. We can help interface. This is one of those unique situations where we may even conference you in with the vacationistas because of some of the direct information that's being shared. I know that is a big thing, is making sure that everybody's well aware of everything. So the vacationistas are really key, and they're awesome too. They are awesome individuals. I'm sure when you called in, Alyssa, to book the trip you did for your family or to get information, you saw just how cool those vacationistas are.
Yeah, they definitely went the extra mile to make sure that, I felt like I had enough information to share with my client. So it's a
different type of trip, and there's a lot of money being spent here, so they have to cover every detail, and they do. They really do. Let's get into mine.
Yes.
And John, I know you're going to pull up the itinerary and we can go through that. Maybe for the end of mine, I also sent you a handful of pictures. I texted you some pictures that maybe at the end you could pull up just to kind of show a little bit about the groups and the people and the individuals that you get to meet. I got a picture at the very end. It wasn't of China, but it was a different itinerary, but it still got one of the Adventures by Disney guides in there with you. So you get an idea of who they are and what they look like. But the other pictures were all China based and gives you an idea of, what to expect and some of the keepsakes you get to take home with you. They're taking, that's another thing we didn't talk about. These guides are taking pictures of you and your family at every stop, at every event, in every hotel, in every iconic site. And at the end of them, they give you all those pictures as part of your trip on a picture platform that you can download and share. Now, obviously, we're all wired to take our own pictures anytime, anywhere, right? We always have a computer in our pocket, but they take pictures of candid shots when you don't even know they're taking them, doing some different activities. So that's another thing that you get from Adventures by Disney is all these memories in the form of pictures. So, all right, China is I've been on 8 of these trips, and China was by far probably my favorite in essence of what we did, the people we were with, the sites that we saw. The China trip is 12 days. It's pretty intense. I know that when we done this trip, we done this one in Japan back to back, just because, a flight over to China is not only somewhat pricey, but I don't want to do a 19-hour flight from the States twice. So we bust over, or we took a small plane over to Japan after and went back to back with the Adventures by Disney China and Japan trip back in 2018. But this one was just iconic to me. Some of the highlights, it's 25 meals are covered in this package. As you see, it gives you those minimum age requirements. But some of the highlights, as you see right there, Hong Kong Disneyland and Shanghai Disneyland was included in this. And that was another reason why we really fell in love with this itinerary, because we got to go to 2 of the parks. And you all, you guys are the same nerds as I am when it comes to Disney parks. If I can get to a park included in my Adventures by Disney trip, heck yes, please. So, and at that time, I think Shanghai Disneyland had only been open for like a year, maybe a year and a half. I think they opened in 2017, and we went in 18, just 1 year later. So they were still working out the kinks of that park. It's big, vast, beautiful.
Question for you, Jeff. So, looking at the itinerary, I know I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but some of these, it looks like Hong Kong, you didn't get there until after lunch at Hong Kong Disneyland. Did you feel like you had time in the parks over there?
We did. We definitely had more than enough time. Part of it was we got into country a couple of days early, Alyssa. And so we went to Hong Kong Disney a full day even before this trip started, where we weren't under any time constraints. So that's something I would recommend for this one, because you're given the better part of a full day at Disneyland. But here's the key. Yeah, you weren't in there like when rope drop happened, is like terminology we nerds like to use, right? You may not have been in there for rope drop, but they give you like this golden fast pass to where, you were not waiting in some of the lines for these attractions, some of the main attractions. So we still got everything done in that short time frame at the parks. So that's another little perk that you get from doing this, with Adventures by Disney, is they're going to get you on some of these rides expedited. Now, obviously, I don't know 1,000% what the process is today versus 2018, but I read enough on some of these some Facebook groups I'm in for Adventures by Disney to know that I know that some of that's still happening, and most of it is still happening, from them giving you access to these rides and skipping the lines. So, but as you see, Hong Kong Disneyland, Shanghai Disneyland is included. Hong Kong's on the front end. Shanghai is where the trip ends at the end. You go to the Great Wall of China. There's a cable car that you take to get to a special area of it. We talked about the panda visit a little bit early on. The Shanghai Acrobat Show, that was pretty amazing. If you're into, let's think of the Cirque du Soleil type show, that's really, in my opinion, a better version of the Cirque du Soleil. There's some amazing things that the Chinese do in their acrobat show. Probably the highlight for me was this next one, the Guilin boat tour. You actually take a winding boat tour through the gumdrop mountains of Guilin, and directly below the mountains are the Fleet Route Reed Flute caves are there, the colorful caves that are there. My sons My son's whole favorite thing was the last thing in the highlights, going to visit the Terracotta Warriors. I'll admit I didn't know a ton about them when I went. I done a little research. My son had done a lot of research, and that was pretty historic, and it was also pretty somber. It was just a really cool thing to see, and to me, it's just one of those amazing things in life that you're like, how did they do that? There's literally, thousands of these warriors still being uncovered, still being dug up, underground, and these you get to see the ones that have already been shown. And you see some of the places that you stay, from the peninsulas are one of my favorite hotels because of Adventures by Disney. We got to stay at the time. We stayed in a couple of them. I see they only have one listed for Beijing. We stayed in the peninsula in Hong Kong. They must have changed it to Rosewood. But you can rest assured that all these hotels are going to be 5 stars. And like I said, if I could give it a higher rank, I would. But flight information, you're going to come into Hong Kong and you're going to fly out of Shanghai. It's very similar to what Alyssa talked about with South Africa. So you definitely have to make sure that you know that, and you're not booking a round trip flight. You're doing what we call a multi-city flight, which aren't necessarily anymore. Sometimes it can be even cheaper by doing that, just depending on the airports. John's got a map up right there, so it kind of shows you the targeted area of China. Obviously, China is a very, very large country. It's enormous. So, we didn't really get to see the whole eastern side of China. But in defense of the itinerary, most of the flagship places that we went to is in that circle that you see on the map right there, from Beijing to Shanghai to Hong Kong and everything in between. They take you to some open air markets where you get to taste some pretty interesting foods. Some things I was afraid to eat, but hey, when in Rome, right? You definitely try it. I have a video that I could share, and maybe John can post in the comments later, of my son and my wife Dana eating like a scorpion, a live scorpion.
Oh,
Which was pretty wild. I'll send you guys a video. You can watch it later. But hey, when in Rome, and I didn't even listen to that. I was designated videotaper for it. John showing you some of the Terracotta Warriors. These things were dug up from the ground. Just unreal. It's really crazy when you're in this warehouse where all these warriors are stacked and set up. The panda bears was one of my wife's favorite thing. These pandas are not, they are just goofy animals to start with. I don't think they all have playing with the full deck, and they're just a lot of fun to watch. That was great. Some of the city sites, I think what we're seeing right here is, I think that might be Beijing. Not 1,000% sure. Shanghai has a very European feel to it. That city almost feels like you're in a Paris city, a France city, somewhere in Italy. But they have a very European feel. Right here, you're looking at obviously Beijing and what they call the center and the heart of China. Tiananmen Square is right across the street there, and these are this is where the heart of China really is. So I can remember going through these courtyards, and it seemed like it never ended. It was courtyard after courtyard. They did have some of these warriors come out for us on the wall, kind of indicative of what the warriors were many, many years ago. What's crazy to me about this Great Wall is, like, we were on this stretch of Great Wall, and it felt like it was 100 miles in either direction you could see. It was a beautiful, clear day we went. But the reality of it is this Great Wall is thousands of miles long. I mean, like, literally, I think it's a couple thousand miles long. And I just can't imagine, like, it makes me think like the Martians did it or something, how they built this thing way back in the day. It's just unreal. You're looking at some of the foods that you eat. These were I think that's Beijing, eating some of the pods and such. Obviously, you're looking at Shanghai right here. You're seeing the most amazing version ever of the Pirates of the Caribbean. The one in China is nothing like the United States. If you guys are curious, go on YouTube and type in Pirates of the Caribbean, Shanghai. It is really heavily based on the Johnny Depp movies, and the technology used there was a picture that was taken of us on the ride. And obviously I didn't know it, but it's a genuine reaction of me. I'm just sitting there with my mouth wide open going, like, looking at everything. It's I wish they would bring this version to the United States. I don't think they will, because I think the crowds would rip them apart after some of the changes they have already done. But man, this is just an upgrade in every sense of the word. So this is Shanghai that you're seeing. Hong Kong is a very different feel park. It feels to me more like a small amusement park. It's not as large as some of the other Disney parks. It's got the small castle, kind of like, at least when we went, the castle was under construction. I think it's a little bit bigger now, but when we went back in 2018, it reminded me of even a smaller version of the one at Disneyland in Anaheim.
Wow.
So, but they had an Iron Man ride there that was really cool and revolutionary at the time. I'm sure what they're building in California, Anaheim, is going to just, up at the game. But China was an amazing trip. It was absolutely amazing. I can remember going out and doing Tai Chi. They scheduled a Tai Chi class for us that we got to do, which really was a cool way to experience the Chinese culture and get to embrace a little bit of what you envision China to be. They really helped to do that. Another point that I wanted to add is, in addition to having the two guides, the one in country and the one from the United States, when you're at some of these flagship cities and flagship things that you're going to explore, like the Great Wall, or like when we were in Tiananmen Square, they actually bring a third type of guide in, somebody from that city who does these tours on a regular basis. They bring like a third resource in for many of these cities that is a big boost and a big help to giving you the history and helping answer questions. So there's more than just the two guides that you get. There's a local guide that is coming and is highlighted and part of your trip as well. So that's something else to talk about. John, I don't know if you had an opportunity or can or not. If not, no big deal, to pull any of those pictures up that I sent you, maybe just one or two, but it gives you the idea of the feel of the type of people and some of the memories that you get for being on these trips. If not, we'll have John maybe post them in the post, or maybe we can comment on our YouTube channel some of these pictures and where they're at. But it gives you a good feel of what what family you become part of when you do these trips. I still to this day will get Christmas cards from just about every one of these trips. There's a picture right there. That was Masi. Masi was one of our two guides for our Italy trip. But you just get to see, this is the personality, the goofiness, and who they become part of your family. The girl right behind him was the owner of the winery and orchard that we went to in Italy, where we were served, in wine country there. We were served food. She owned it. And it was just amazing. So those are just, some of the great highlights you get, some of the great memories you get. There's us on the wall, a little joke with Bernie Sanders in there, just a little fun picture there. You guys remember that happening? One of the guides at the time was placing him in a number of places, just having fun with it. Go to the next picture, John, if you can. Let's see what he brings up here next.
The other thing to mention, because you become so close with your travelers, is because there's not a ton of you on these trips. They max out at what, 30 or less, right, Jeff?
35 to 40. So 35
Okay.
to 40. Most of our trips were in that 35, 36 person range. We had a couple of them like China, which was sold out. I think we had 42 on that one. They will go like a +1 or +2 on either side of it, either cut it short or stop it early, because they like to be around that 40 range. But yeah, right around the 40 range is the max, and it's not too many people. It's actually perfect. There's one of the Adventures by Disney. There's a great picture right there of our whole group in China. This was the boat that went through the Gumdrop Mountains in Guian, and you can see about the size. And if you count everybody, it's right around the 40 mark. And you can see the kids, the junior adventurers. There's all of us at the Disneyland resort. So you can see everybody who was part of the trip. So you get an idea of the size of these groups.
Yeah, it's really not that big.
No, it's really not. I've seen groups walking through Disney World, with the paddle up, that are much bigger than this. This is a small group of people, and by the end of it, you become family. There's the panda exhibit that we went to. Just some of the memories that they give you.
It just really ensures that you really get a very tailored experience because it's not so big. And the guides that you get they learn you, they know you, and they can cater to just, anything that you need. So yeah, it's pretty amazing.
And they definitely will cater. They definitely will cater to just about anything and everything that you need on this trip. Whether you are difficult and you have to have a certain type of, pillow or something, right down to somebody like me who didn't ask for it, just inquired, is there anything, that is similar to Mayo? And it showed up in my hotel room the next day. They went and did it for you. So it's pretty unique, the experience that you come away with, and it makes you really crave the next trip. It makes you crave it in so many different ways. These are kind of, I kind of described, and it's kind of a funny description. Someone asked me what these trips were like a long time ago, and I said it's kind of like getting a tattoo. Once you get your first one, it's hard to stop. And that's kind of what I kind of looked at these Adventures by Disney trips as. John, I don't know if I might be making it difficult to you before we hang up. I just sent you a video of that, the video of Dana and Taylor eating the scorpion. That might be a cool way to end it here, just kind of showing the video and all that. But Adventures by Disney, it's an amazing, amazing brand. It's not talked about enough. I think we need to highlight it more. I think it's one of those brands that not a lot of people look into because the price tag can scare them. But when you really realize the value you get for these trips and the memories, it's worth it if you're thinking about going anyways, it's going to be a much more expensive trip than going to, a local amusement park or even Disney World. But if you're thinking of going, in my opinion, it's 1,000 times worth spending the extra 20-25% and doing it in a way that will give you front of the line access. Most of your meals paid for, the transportation within the trip paid for, but the level of service that Disney gives you is unmatched. These trips are worth their weight in gold. Never had a bad experience, on any of my trips. I can't say enough about the guides. I can't say enough about the memories that were taken. I sometimes think the best part of these trips weren't just the sights we saw, but the connections we made with the people and the memories that I gave my kids for years to come. So don't get me wrong, everyone's got different budgets and stuff, but if it's just something you're thinking about doing, going to a country and visiting it, call Alyssa, call Jen, call myself, call John, call any of your agents and talk to them, because I think you'll be mildly surprised on how that little bit of extra money that you would spend on one of these trips can give you one of the best vacations of your life.
Oh, here we go.
Okay, ready? You get Mom. I get Taylor.
So brave. You are so brave.
Taylor.
How is it? This on?
Go. It's a scorpion.
Okay.
It's actually really good. Go.
There you
I
go.
love it.
There's your final reason why you want to do it. You get to eat scorpions in China.
Oh my God. We should add, when you book your Adventures by Disney trip with the Moments Magic travel agent, we give you a version of onboard credit. So just free money back in your pocket. Like my clients going next summer, each room is getting like $600 or $650. Like,
that's wonderful. Yeah.
So not only did they get the $1,000 off from Adventures by Disney for booking it, now they are getting an extra 600 and something. So
and we do that too for Disney Cruise Line. So if you're thinking about a cruise, give us a call too, and we can help you with that. So can't say enough about Adventures by Disney. You guys know it's one of my favorite topics. But if you guys want your free obligation, no obligation quote, get a hold of Jen, get a hold of Alyssa, myself, or any of the wonderful agents here at Moments of Magic. We want to thank Leslie for allowing us to do this. Thank John from behind the curtain for making this one of the coolest technical ones that we've done. Awesome work done. So, but can't wait to see you guys here in a little less than 2 weeks because we're late on this week. So we'll be back on, what is that, Tuesday?
We got our fun annual draft, our Disney draft coming up. So I think that's right.
So we'll be back on April 1st. April 1st, I think is the next one if we're going by the schedule. So love doing these calls with you guys.
All right. We'll see you next
time. Good topic, guys. Thanks so much.
Bye.
See everybody. Take care. Thanks, John.
Woo!